Welcome back to His Glory, Her Good, a podcast for women in student ministry. We are your hosts. I am Amanda.
And I'm Corinne.
And we are back for a really fun episode. Corinne, tell us why are we talking about this topic? Because when we were dreaming up the season and the necessary topics that we want to cover, this came from something that you experienced over the summer.
Yeah. So I think we try to keep our podcast episodes to things that are based on conversation and personal, just what we're learning. But I think this idea of what would it look like for us to live undistracted, but interruptible, and how often sometimes maybe we treat the interruptions that are from the Lord as distractions to fight, and vice versa. We think the distractions are things that we need to really give our attention to. But when we look to the life of Jesus, I think we start to see maybe a life that we really long for, but how do we actually get there? And so this is definitely a conversation that could just sound really good and good wording. But we want to move from just okay, that's a great theory, but now how do we practice it? And it came from a lot of conversation this summer with interns and with our students of constantly God is giving us opportunity to hear from him. I don't think the issue is that we need to pray that God speak to us, God be with us. Those are definitely things that we want to keep asking just for the mercy. But I really believe that we are serving a God who is speaking and a God who is showing up, but there are often so many times that we're missing it. And I just don't want to get to the end of my life and realize that I missed all these ways when I was looking for him maybe to show up in a specific way. And because he did it differently, I missed it.
Yeah, that's so good. I think about this past summer. I would say when all of you student ministers out there are having the craziest summers of your life, I'm over here okay, what am I not necessarily twiddling my thumbs, but I'm not traveling. I'm not with you guys on the road. And so there's more of a reflection season.
Yeah.
And it is a weird season to be in. I feel when I'm on the road and I'm traveling and we're doing events throughout the year, I feel there's a purpose and a direction and the event's happening or the product is releasing and I get to be involved. But in the summer, I feel I'm thinking far ahead and I'm trying to come up with a schedule and a plan. And I will say that I'm not very good about things changing. And so I felt this past summer, God really was teaching me a lot about this idea of creating a path of direction, but also building in room for God to do something different or God to come in and say, you know what, we're not going to do that event, or no, we're going to do it a different way, or allowing people to call and just interrupt even my day-to-day schedule and say can you think about this or can you help out with that?
Yeah.
So that was just a interesting season of being slow. And so I felt I had more time to be interrupted, but I'm also was looking ahead and be how do I keep this rhythm of being able to offer people to interrupt me and to speak into other things and to not like you were saying, not miss God and just the everyday.
Because I think sometimes there can be a frustration that comes up in the face of interruptions. I feel God has used that frustration to, in some ways, hold up a mirror to my heart to go, why are you so bothered by things that aren't going your way and key? Because I have a set way that I would like things to go. And even in our programming, how often are we trying to get to the next thing or stay on track? And I understand there are things to do, but then sometimes we get so task-oriented that we get frustrated with the student that just wants to talk about their cat, or we get frustrated with the parent that has something and
that wants to meet again.
Yes. And there's something there that we can bring to the Lord, but I think sometimes we hold so tightly to our view of how we would like this to go.
Our plans, our schedules, and our expectations.
We don't like being made to feel like we're an inconvenience. And I don't know that that's always our intention. But what if the inconveniences and the interruptions in our day are actually the ministry that God has for us along the way of the also ministry maybe we expected to do? And I just want to be someone that can absolutely have a thought on, I think this is what God has for me today. But Lord, I'm going to trust that every person that stops me, that everything that happens could be from you and an opportunity and an invitation to join you in where you are today.
That's good. Okay, so in ministry, where do you feel like you get caught up in distractions?
Oh, gosh. Oh, yeah. Lots of ways. I think some of it, especially maybe in a context of we're out of like the summer craziness. Now we're kind of in the regular consistent programming versus like the once a year stuff. I think some of the distraction can be falling into the rhythm of this is what we do. And now on to the next thing. And then we do this and we do Wednesday, then we do Sunday, and then we do this.
We're so busy with the everyday task that we...
Yes. And so for me, sometimes it is the time management of those tasks. And I'm not saying work is a distraction, but I do think if we're not careful, we can get so caught up in the what do I have to do today instead of, okay, wait, God, who are you trying to help me become? But then I also think there are times where we are called to the work at hand and we let the random things that pop into our brain that need to just go on a Post-it note and be saved for later. Or, I mean, how many times have I actually found myself like, oh, wait, I don't need to be on my phone doing these random things. Like, I'm here to work. And so I think really paying attention to the ways that we're filling our time and when we're on the clock versus off the clock. But I think sometimes I can be so dictated by the calendar and the schedule that I forget to go, okay, that's a tool, but Lord, what do you want today to look like? And where do you maybe want me to actually wait for this task to get done or be okay with having to do this later because you don't want me running through the day, just getting through, but you actually want me joining you on the journey of like walking through the day.
That's so good. I think we'd all like agree about like, if we came down to the very root of God's calling in our life, it would be to love God and love people, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like what we would say.
Yeah.
We'd probably wear it on a t-shirt or something like that.
Yeah.
But then when God asks us to like interrupt our days by loving people or loving him, you know, in a unique, we're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I would like to love you and I would like to love people on my own time and in my own way and on my own schedule. But I love the life of Jesus because I feel like he set a different precedent for us. It's like he modeled it perfectly to love God, to love people, to focus. He like was a man who knew that he came to save. He knew that he came to serve. He knew that he came to bring about the kingdom of God. But man, he had time for the children. He had time for the sick and the lame and the blind. I'll never forget like hearing the story from Christy McCullen about like the woman with the issue of blood and how, you know, this poor woman like, you know, has been sick for years, right? And no one's given her the time of day. No one wants to touch her or be near her. And Jesus and a crowd of people like very much like on his way somewhere else stops and doesn't just like heal her, move on, like check a box. Like he took the time to look at her and to see her as his daughter. And to like not just like heal her of her disease, but to like say your sins have been forgiven. Like this is like what a beautiful like demonstration of like the life we have. And obviously we are not perfect and we are not Jesus. But what if our day-to-day life was not just viewing people who come into our office or who just want to sit and rant, like as much as we're like, I've got stuff to do, and you do, like we can't just like be distracted by noise or our phones or just like wasteful conversations. But there's people like that is like the end of the day. What we are called to do is to love God and to love people and to see them not just as a distraction or a bump in the road, but as people that we get to love and serve.
Yeah. And that will mean staying in conversations with people that are maybe harder to listen to or talk to. But again, I think that says more about us. And if God shows no favorites, then we shouldn't either. And I also think, though, on the other hand, interruptions can be pain. Interruptions can be a diagnosis. It can be suffering. It can be things that just don't go according to how we think things are going to be playing out. And we absolutely can run to the Lord in those things. But instead of fighting them as just frustration against this is not what I had in mind, constantly being reminded that this life, I'm not holding the pen. Like I am serving the author and I can trust him, but also I am I want to be a heart that yields to the story God is writing for my life, even if it is more inconvenient or more uncomfortable. Because when I look back, how many beautiful things have come from being in the discomfort or the quote unquote inconvenience, and what has God taught me? And I'm so thankful that the Lord approaches us with the time and compassion and the attention. And I think one of the things we were talking about even this summer, and it goes way back to our days in doing college ministry right out of college. But the story of Elijah, when he is like on the mountain encountering the Spirit of God, and the Spirit of God is not in the earthquake. It's not in the big noises and the great things, but it's in the whisper or the small wind. And that actually takes me back. But we had gotten into a lot of conversation with our college students back in the day of what would it look like to don't miss the whisper. And I think in our generation, in our time, and yes, it's countercultural, I do worry that we may get to the end of our lives and be a little confused and felt like, man, I thought God was going to speak more, or God was going to do these things. And it might actually be that it's revealed to us that we missed him in the whisper because our lives weren't quiet enough and we didn't stay long enough to see him and to hear him at work. And I think that's a beautiful promise, that we serve a God who's listening and serve a God who's speaking. But is my life quiet enough? Is my heart empty enough to need to be filled by him? And that's, I think, the pressing thing, that instead of us as leaders constantly talking to our audience of students of like, we want you to do this, we have to model this. And I worry at times that we are flying through our days. We have to get to the next thing, and we might be missing what Jesus is trying to invite us into, which is modeling that, yes, I have an idea of how I think today will go, but I'm willing to follow Jesus wherever. And I'm actually kind of excited to be inconvenienced, because that might mean that there's some divine appointments I didn't even know about.
Oh, that's so good. As you guys know, I have 2 little kids, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. You know what they do more than anything? Interrupt. I truly, we are at the stage of parenting that my husband and I are we'll talk to you at 8 p.m. There is just no way that we can have a fruitful conversation. Oh my gosh. And the car is the worst time. Judah in the backseat will just so the moment Brandon will open his mouth about anything like work or what we're going to go eat for dinner, Judah's just Mom, over and over again. And I'm hold on, Judah, just give me a second. Let me talk to your daddy. Yeah. And it is the most frustrating thing. Because you're I just want to be adult. Sometimes it's just I want to sit in silence in the car. Right. But the Lord is just reminding me of how often I can overlook what my child needs, and of course he's my child and I need to give him my attention, but we're so dismissive because it doesn't fit our agenda. It doesn't fit what we want in that moment. I sometimes don't want to have to talk about nothing. Judah finally be okay, Judah, what? And he'll be look at that dragon outside. I'm that's not even real. And it doesn't fit my agenda. It doesn't fit my, just my mental capacity sometimes to deal with it. But taking the time to address my son, to see who he is, to care for him, to let him know that I love him and I see him, and I want to, know what dragons he sees out the window. All that to say is, it's not that it's easy. No. It's not that, man, feels good or it doesn't inconvenience me. There's a cost to living a life that's interruptible. Our preferences are interrupted. I think that there's something really said about having a ministry that pursues excellence. Mm-hmm. But if you are so caught up in creating this perfect on the outside, excellent ministry, don't hold back. I think you could miss a lot on what God wants to do in the interruptions, because interruptions will inconvenience, or it'll distract from the perfection of a ministry. This event's got to be perfect, and so we don't have time for blah 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 blah. And I just ask myself, is that the goal? Is that at the end of the day the thing that matters the most? No, it matters, but it doesn't matter the most. And so, what other costs would you say that you see when it comes to living a life that's undistracted.
Yeah, like it definitely will cost us. It will cost us our efficiency. It will cost us at times our convenience. It will, like you're saying, it will cost us our preferences. And I think those are all things that we need to acknowledge. Like there is a cost. And I think you bring up the good point of even what is excellence. I am not anti doing things. I mean, we are very much supposed to serve the Lord, like with all we've got. But I do worry sometimes that we are after such programmatic excellence that we neglect relational excellence. And that I think there is something to be said about flawless execution. I don't know that I would equate flawless execution as godly excellence. Because I think in the process, if we get the task done, but people suffer or are not delighted in, then I don't know that we can actually say that that was really excellent. And I don't think we get credit for checking the box of, well, I listened, I stayed in the conversation, like I technically did these things. But like you were saying, I think there is power in sincere, meaningful, delighting in the people that we're talking to. And that might sound like a weird phrase, but I mean, first of all, we know that the Lord delights in us, like genuinely cares and is excited to engage. And we need to be people like that. I mean, just even developmentally, that's what kids need these days, like to feel like not just I'm listened to, I'm heard because they have to listen, but they actually enjoy talking to me. And I want to be that kind of person. But I think we have to be willing to redefine what is the actual excellence that God is asking of us and not the execution that we would like or that others celebrate.
Yeah, because we talk about the word undistracted in here and you're like, well, how can I be both at the same time? And I think the undistraction part is you're still undistracted about the mission at hand.
Right.
Like what is, if I had to write out on a piece of paper, what's my why? What's the goal? If I were to leave my ministry tomorrow, if I were to never come back here, what would I want to be said of me and my work here? Right. And I think that's what we see in Jesus. Like he had a mission.
Yes.
But that's not like he just like worked 24/7. Right. Like he's eating dinner with the disciples. And I mean, think about how much they traveled and walked. And, you know, like there was a mission at hand for sure. But the interruptions, it didn't derail the mission. I think the distraction really comes in when we are caught up in things like the pursuit of excellence over kingdom work. I think the distraction comes in when we care about what people think more than the kingdom work, or the distraction is apathy and laziness, and that it's like, well, it doesn't even matter. So I'm just going to like scroll my phone for an hour in my office. Yeah. So there is that balance. So when I say undistracted, I want you to understand that it's not just a matter of not doing your job and just letting lots of interruptions come your way. No, the matter of the day, you still want to stand before the Lord and say, and hear him say, well done, good and faithful servant. But I can promise you that pulling off a perfect girls event or a perfect summer camp is not what's going to get you well done, good and faithful servant at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What it is you love God and you love people.
Right.
And that's what we have to ask ourselves.
And that's the thing that we talk about, what will it cost us if we're going to live undistracted and interruptible? But I think sometimes we don't also consider what will the cost be to our lives if we don't. And I just wonder, like from you, as we've been talking about this, what are some of the costs of if we don't do this?
I mean, I see so many ministers put their family on the back burner, like the people in their life that matter the most. The work that they do, their jobs, is more important than any family. Kids feel like their, pastor dad doesn't care for them or doesn't love them or doesn't see them as anybody but just like a member of their church. Yeah. So I've seen that as a cost of when you're not allowing your family to interrupt your job. That's a big cost. But ultimately, like the distractions come down to like the why of what we do it. Like we can be doing really good work for God and miss it completely. And so more than just a task-driven ministry, are we a ministry of God's people?
Yeah. Because I think that's going to be the takeaway. Like you're saying, if we look back and we pulled off a great event, but in the process, people felt used or they felt in the way or they noticed your intensity and just like to a point that it just wasn't necessary. But to get the win of like, what a great event we had. I don't think that that's actually where we want to be like, yes, we want to, in the process, there's actually a way that we can get the work done, be laser focused on Jesus, pull off some really great things, and people in the process feel still like the priority. And I don't mean that we make ourselves overly accessible and available to all people at all times. I just mean that there is a difference between I technically talked to you and I actually gave you time and I cared and I listened. And I think that's part of the cost that we'll miss it and we will not get to be part of the abundance and the fruitful ministry that God is inviting us into. And I think that cost is so much greater than the cost of our preferences and our convenience.
Totally. Those are temporary things. The other things have eternal value and impact. So like looking forward, I know we normally do looking back, but I want you to look forward for a second. We're finishing up. Fall is going to be quickly over. Like holidays are coming for us, whether or not we're ready. But going into this next year, even going into the holiday season where maybe work quiets down a little bit, ministry quiets down a little bit, how are you hoping to live a life that's undistracted but interruptible? Yeah,
I think in those margin times where there maybe is a little more time to be, I guess, to get to do other things, being really conscious and thoughtful and intentional beforehand of, I think even looking at the end of holiday season, let's say, or end of fall, going into the new year of what do I want to be able to like look back and be like, wow. So for me, I'm like, I want to really engage in meaningful conversations and be present in the relationships that are in my life. I want to delight in the people that are in my life and make great memories. Okay. So if those are the things, then in order to do that, I got to put down my phone.
Yeah.
Like so fast, so hard. I cannot spend my holiday just like binging content and television and all the things, but actually finding real rest. But then also being intentional to say, hey, I really want to make the most of this and bringing friends into that of the accountability of like, if you see me not doing this, please call me out. But I think also going slow enough to say, let's not pack our day with back-to-back meetings where we can put 15 minutes of margin between things, where we can add a little time to actually pray before the next thing or to sit with the Lord and hear from God in the in-between. If I can do that, even if it means other tasks take me more days than just one, maybe for the sake of giving up some efficiency for the margin to meet with God, that's how I want to live.
That's so good. I would say like I am a planner details kind of person and I like to plan ahead. So like I know what's coming up. You guys, when you're listening, you know what you have the next 2 months. Don't wait until the week. I'm talking to myself. Sorry, not just you guys, but talking to myself. Like I cannot just wait until the week of an event to stress about the details. Because on the day of the event, on the day that something's supposed to happen, on the date that, you know, your next meeting with parents is happening, if you're so caught up in the logistics and the administrative and then again, making that whatever it is, awesome. You're going to miss out on the parent who just really needs to talk about their daughter. And I'm going to miss out on getting to have real connections because I'm just worried about what I need to do next. And so I'm right now, I feel like in a place where I'm just trying to, like this week is actually at our Etch Next Gen conference. And we like finish these details in July, right? To deal with breakouts. So that way when we're at the event, we can just be with the people. And so even just like this week at Etch, my like heart is just to like really not just worry about like what chairs need to be moved or but to like actually focus on like, man, these like ministers like need someone to like love and shepherd them.
And so, maybe we could all be brave to find one person that we trust and maybe ask them how we're actually doing in this area.
That's true.
Because I think we can think that we intend to make everyone feel important in the process of the planning. But there might actually be ways that would be really cool growth opportunities and gifts to know, okay, I can actually grow in this.
Yep. I love it. Well, hey, thanks for listening today. This is a really fun conversation, and we hope that it was helpful for you. If you are interested in a great resource, Christy McClellan, first of all, is like one of our favorites around here. She's been on the podcast, but her study, Jesus and Women, is available, and we're going to link it below. But we're talking about that story of like the daughter or like when he tells the woman with the issue of blood, like, take heart, daughter. I mean, truly, Chrissy, hearing her teach on that has changed my life. And you get to kind of share that story with your teen girls, but also there's a version for yourself as well. So that's our resource highlight today. But we hope you guys have a great week. If you have Fall Fest and everything else this week, enjoy dressing up and having Fall Fest. All right. Well, we'll see you next time. His Glory, Her Good is a production of the Lifeway Podcast Network.
We're your hosts, Corinne Allen
and Amanda Mejias.
We are so grateful that you joined us, and we'll see you next time.